Okay, we have 9 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Was the meeting properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
Clerk will take roll, please.
All members are present.
We have the agenda before us. If there's no corrections or adjustments. Okay, motion is motion by Supervisor P, second by Supervisor Edwards. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Agenda is approved. We had the minutes from December 10th and December 17th. Motion approved by Supervisor Kubarski, second by Supervisor Paler. Any discussion or question on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Those minutes are approved. Well, public participation as we move through. So our only action item is discuss and our act on approval of position placement changes in additions to 2025 wage scale. I assume the HR director.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we had some positions that we had, a new position that had to be evaluated to put onto the wage scale. And there was some, due to that, there was some restructuring in the Health and Human Services Department as well. So do you want to take them separately or all together? Do you want to do
What would the committee like to do?
an approval per request or all together? You want me to explain them and then you can decide?
Sure. Well, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
With the job descriptions that were sent to Risk Strategies to reevaluate, one of the positions was a confidential administrative assistant that was actually in the administration office. Due to a resignation, that position was looked at and was reevaluated. So they came back as there should be no change with that position. So that will stay in step 15. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that one. In the aging and disability area, the Aging and Disability Resource Center Supervisor was a new position that was created for 2025. That position was evaluated by Risk Strategies, and they recommended that that be put into pay grade 12. And also with that restructure, the Aging and Disability the Aging and Disability Manager, then so that there's a step in between those two, they are recommending that that position be moved from pay grade 12 to pay grade 11. So that there is a space between those two positions for the new supervisor position. The other recommendation that I have for the wage scale is the old wage scale. The social worker positions used to be in 2 different grades, one for certified and one for not certified. The social worker positions do require them to receive their social worker certification within 2 years from their date of hire. So it's something that they do need to get. And instead of having multiple grades in the new scale, I would recommend that going forward, any position or any employee that's hired and is not certified, that their wage be decreased by 5% until they reach that certification. And then they would go up to the rate in that grade. So we're not going to put it into a separate grade. We're just going to decrease the wage by 5%, which in the old scale is actually 7% is the difference between the 2 steps. So we're going to go with a 5%, which is roughly $1.50, a little less than $1.50 an hour. So those were the changes that I need, hopefully, approval for.
Okay. What is the committee's pleasure? Do them all at once or individually? Okay. Supervisor Kubarski.
Just a quick question. How long does this reduction in wage go on before it's brought up to scale?
Once they receive their certification.
Once they receive their certification, they would go up to full scale.
And with the old scale, that's the way it is as well. They're in that lower pay grade. And then when they receive their certification, then they go up a pay scale. So that's how it is now. It's just in 2 different categories. And instead of having multiple positions and multiple grades for a social worker certified and uncertified, we just have one social worker in the new scale.
And then denote that if they're not certified, they get a 5%
Yes, it
reduction.
would just be a little sentence that we put with the wage scale with an asterisk that says there's a 5% decrease if they're non-certified until the point that they're certified.
Supervisor Edwards and then Supervisor Pease.
I have a question on these supervisor and manager positions that
Okay.
I think they're both new within that department. How do they compare with the other supervisor and manager positions within HHS?
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
The aging and disability manager is already a position that's a current position right now. The only new position is the supervisor position.
And how do they compare with the other supervisor and manager positions in Health and Human Services?
Every position is evaluated separately. So the only time that they would, and from my understanding, where they would evaluate them together is if there's positions where if there has to be a change in pay grades depending on supervisory duties. So like the supervisor and the manager obviously would not be in the same pay grade because one supervises the other. And that's why the manager needs to be moved up.
no,
one grade.
but I think her question is how does that compare with the other supervisors within HHS?
They're all in all different grades, pay grades. They're not, all the supervisors are not in one pay grade. All the managers are not in one pay grade. So if there's any in particular that you have a question on, I can look them up on on the current pay scale and let you know. Is there any in particular that she did?
Not in particular. I was just wondering how it goes throughout that department because
So
it can cause conflict between employees.
for example, in pay grade 10, there's the Children and Family Services Manager, the Clinical Services Manager, the Coordinated Services Manager in pay grade 10. In pay grade 11 is the Children and Family Services Supervisor. And then in that 11, we're looking to move the manager up to that pay grade 11 as well. Let me see here. In pay grade 12 is the Economic Support Services Manager, as well as the Fiscal Manager.
I guess I just don't
Yep.
understand why you've got managers at pay grade 12 and supervisors at 11, along with other managers. It just doesn't make sense to me.
And that's where I said each position is evaluated by the duties on the job description. So it depends on what's, some managers may have a title of a manager, but maybe they don't, or a supervisor, but they don't necessarily supervise somebody. And like I said, each position is evaluated separately. So depending on what those tasks are for that position, it may warrant where those positions should go into the pay grade. Just because it's a manager or a supervisor, not all of those positions go in the same pay grade because they have different responsibilities and different duties.
Okay. Supervisor Pease.
She actually answered most of my questions. My statement would be, I agree with Ms. Woods because you don't know what education is involved in that, what other jobs are involved in that and who they supervise and how many they supervise. So there could be different levels of managers or supervisors. So I understand what she's saying. Thank you.
Supervisor Skabarski, did you have something else?
Just wondering, if there couldn't be some unity somehow, where everything's, different levels. How do you keep track of all that? How do you make sure that it's fair? And so that's all. I don't think there's really an answer. It's just a
Right.
concern.
I mean, that's why they slot these with risk management and using outside parties, so they're hopefully unbiased and. So what is the committee's pleasure on those items?
I'll make a motion to approve the wage scale placement and changes.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, that motion passes. We'll
Mr.
move
Chair.
on to monthly reports then. Nothing in project status. I don't see anything attached there. Yeah, I was looking at Kyle too. So.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
yeah, it should have, I'm sorry, it wasn't attached. It would be this, would have been the same link as last month. Well, it looks like Lyanna's pulling it up right now.
The link is the same as last month. So if there's any updates on there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
for the finance related projects, there wasn't really too much to update. The ARPA funds have all been committed now with that resolution from the Highway Department.
okay.
Other than that, there weren't too many major changes.
Okay. We have the treasurer's report. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What's the next step for the splash pad with the city? If you could tell me.
Yes. Go ahead.
Mr.
Town
Chair.
Manager.
So I would hope to meet with the city and get some sort of task group going on their side where I can contribute, at least be, not involved in the project because now it's their project, but at least get the wheels going and be able to report back on the project status.
So you basically are a liaison for that, kind of.
Don't know if I'm a liaison.
Well, you'll
just
report back to
connected.
us. You'll keep us,
Correct.
okay.
Okay. Anything else with the project status report? Okay.
John, if I may,
Yes.
on the, I don't know the right way to say this, on the agenda or the reports, they came through a little late and some of that stuff, I didn't look this morning. I looked last night and it wasn't there.
Right. Well, and we were almost the only item on the agenda that we had. We were almost not going to have the meeting. We were discussing that, but then we had the wage placement things that HR needed approved. So,
Okay. Just a word to the wise, get them there. So
Yeah.
we have time to look at them.
treasurer's report.
Good morning.
Morning.
So this is the first treasurer's report that I am actively the county treasurer for. I do want to point out that it was not submitted by me. It was completed before I started employment. So it does say submitted by the treasurer's office. I think Kyle worked with the treasurer's office to complete that. So I just wanted to make that known. Does the committee have any questions?
No, it doesn't look like that one. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
just curious how things are going so far. Day 2 in the treasurer's office, how are things going?
Day two, we lost our employee that was recently hired in the treasurer's office yesterday, which I support. In speaking with the staff member that's still actively in the treasurer's office about the staffing, she is uncomfortable that we will be able to take care of our customer, the taxpayer, with the recent changes and reduction of staffing. So I would like at some point for this committee to review that. It is my understanding that there has not been a member of leadership in the treasurer's office doing a review all day, any day, including respectfully our county administrator coordinator. So if I was going to ask for assistance with anything, it would be to review that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
is there a process where we can review the reduction in staffing? And if so, what would that look like?
we talked about that last month, and it's something that I know the county manager and corp counsel and I maybe will be looking at, so. So, and if we need to do something through the committee, it'll be brought back to the committee, so. With the things that just happened yesterday, it's just so short of a notice to get it on the agenda if we were gonna do anything, so. So that's where it would start anyways. The county manager always looks at any positions with the human resource director to see if it needs to be filled or not when there is a vacancy. That's how that process works, when there is a vacancy.
Yeah, my understanding though is that they're not willing to look at it because the board approved, or not the board, sorry, the admin and finance committee settled on the idea that the board, that you all approved that the reduction in staffing, so therefore there's no discussion. So just wondering how we get that back to have some discussion about it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Corp counsel? Well,
Sorry. Okay, with respect to Mr. Dolzel, he's not a member of this committee, and I don't believe this line of questioning is appropriate. This should, because he's a board member, but not a member of this committee, he has the right to raise this with the full board.
Okay.
Okay, so then to answer the question, what's the process to bring this back and have it discussed and reviewed? So can you,
Again, I don't.
can you help me with that for the full board then? Like, it doesn't have to be discussed in this committee, but then can you help me make that happen for the full board?
I can contact you later and let you know the process.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving on, I don't see anything on the IT report. Is there a report or no written report
There was one submitted, Mr. Chair. I don't know if the county clerk had time with.
to load it?
To post
Was there any changes that you're here
no.
in person?
No.
Okay. Human resources then, that report is attached.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
So, so this will be the last report for obviously 2024. Next month, the report will be much shorter. So you can see that there wasn't much activity for resignations for the month of December. We did get 5 resignations / retirement, a retirement on the first week of January though. So we're working to get those positions filled. There really isn't anything, excuse me, on the report that I wanted to point out. Just the retirement by Karen Bays. She was employed by the county for, I think it was 31 years. So wanted to point that out. And we did have a, excuse me, a work anniversary in December for an employee, Shar Keach, who's been here for 35 years. So just wanted to point that out as well. So there isn't anything additional that on the report. So if there's any questions, I'd be willing to answer any.
yes, Supervisor Pease.
I noticed that, so this is for December, not January.
Because I received those resignations and we're able to get them into the report, I put them in there so that you could see that.
The only reason why I'm asking that is I noticed there's a secretary scale clerk from January 3rd, 2025. Is that a new position or did somebody resign there or what was that then?
That would have been Karen's position.
Okay.
Yep, since she retired, we reclassified that position now, and it's going to be hired as a scale clerk, not the lead
Okay,
fiscal specialist.
all right. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. No other questions? We'll move on then to county clerk's report.
Does anybody have any questions on my report? Thank you.
Okay. What's my agenda? Okay, Core Council's report.
I'm just looking to see if it was linked.
Yeah,
I did submit a report. I'll have to get with Liana. I might not have done it correctly, but I did start this position on December 18th. I've had several meetings with Atoles. I've had one training involved meeting with all of the department heads with whom I'll be interacting. I've attended several hearings, guardianships, Watts reviews. I've been doing a lot of legal research. You may be aware or may not be aware that there's a conflict in the statutes with regard to constitutional officers versus the county board hiring staff. So I've had 2 or 3 meetings with Atoles and have done a lot of independent legal research on that. And this is actually the first week that I will work all 5 days because of the holidays and the fact that I started on a Wednesday. I did send out an email late yesterday to all of the supervisors, inviting them to make an appointment if they would like to just sit down and get acquainted and bring to me any concerns or questions they may have. And I think that's sufficient for now.
okay. Otherwise, any questions? Supervisor Carvillo?
So my question is, you're not associated with Atoles at all?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so you're your own firm, or what firm do you represent?
No, I represent Adams County. I'm an employee of Adams County.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Sure.
This is Supervisor, this is Nancy. We had still the resolution to hire her. Okay. Okay. Next, we'll move on to Finance Director's report.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
were there any questions on my report?
Okay. Let's see any. You mentioned the ARPA work group report. Well, so. Oh, yes. Go ahead, Supervisor Pease.
Hey Kyle, could you tell us what the final number you gave to the highway department is?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The final number that we're giving to the highway department won't be known until all of the projects have been completed that were approved before that.
Right now, there was no balance remaining, or was there?
Right now, there was no balance, but we were anticipating that there were going to be some grants for the housing study, which would free up those monies. And then I believe the Wi-Fi at the parks was going to come in under slightly. So there might be, I'm not sure, ballpark figure might be like 10 to 20,000 potentially.
Okay. Yes.
So my question would be, seeing that we made a resolution to give that money to the highway, is that funds obligated then, so we wouldn't have to give it back?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, those funds have been obligated. The resolution was reviewed by Atoles, and it met the qualifications of obligating those funds.
So, right. So, yeah, as those come forward, as those projects come under and it's transferred, just keep the committee apprised of the monies that flow back there. So be appreciated. Okay. Otherwise, we'll move on to the county manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Kind of a short report this month. I'm just now coming back from a 2-week vacation yesterday. So a lot of catch-up work yesterday. The sheriff held a press conference that was on December 13th. That was regarding a pretty important investigation that took place. It wasn't very well attended, so I do believe it is recorded. I'm looking at IT right now. Believe it. Oh, We don't know if it was recorded, but I was told it was recorded. The sheriff had told me. So if you're interested, I think it might be out there for you. And then I also, in the other meetings and public or community efforts, attended the Inter-County Coordinating Committee, and I'm planning to host that meeting. As you know, Adams County is a recent member. They, remember they changed their bylaws to incorporate us. I'm going to have a meeting here hosted at the community center, and I'll alert you to that. I believe that's going to be in April. Other than that, are there any questions?
Okay, and then the expense report is there for, if there's any questions on that? Okay. We'll set the next meeting date then.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I got a quick question. I apologize. Back on the approval of the placement changes, there was another one that I wanted to discuss as well. Can we do that now?
We can.
Okay. So in the share, or excuse me, the Health and Human Services Department as well, this kind of happened last year, but I don't think it was updated on the wage scale. So I want to make sure that if this is something that needs to be approved as well. So after the wage scale came through, there were some questions at Health and Human Services regarding certain positions. We had them looked at again, and there was one position, the Coordinated Services Supervisor. That position, Winrisk Strategies looked at that again because that position does supervise the behavioral health therapist in the Coordinated Services Division, and they were in the same classification. They did recommend that that go up to grade 11 instead of grade 12. So that was kind of the process last year, in 2024, but it wasn't actually on the wage scale that you guys probably looked at during the meeting. So I wasn't sure, does that need to be approved as well? Or can I move it per their instructions from the process?
Well, if it's a change from what was on there, I
Okay.
think we need to have a approval, right?
Okay.
Right, correct.
So that would be my request, is to move the Coordinated Services Supervisor position from grade 12 up to grade 11. Due to that position supervising the behavioral health therapist, and they both were in the same grade.
Supervisor Kubarski?
Say again, how that
Uh,
got skipped over?
The coordinated service, a coordinated
Services Supervisor.
supervisor, yeah, say that real fast 10 times. But they were in the same grade scale as the behavior health specialist that they
Yes.
oversee.
So when they.
So they recommended that we take that one up a grade.
Because they were in this, yes, because it was in the same grade as a position that they supervise. So there needs to be that level, that one level up between the two grades.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Motion by Supervisor Pease, second by Supervisor Edwards. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. That motion passes.
Thank you.
Are we done now?
I think we're done now. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I apologize. May I add to my report?
Yes.
I did want to report to you that you may be aware that the Child Support Agency has been using outside counsel, not Atoles, a different attorney, for their child support hearings. Their contract with him expires February 8th, and I will be taking those over on February 8th. And I have taken several cases back from Atoles, meaning that they're no longer working on them and I have responsibility for them. However, Atoles is continuing to finish up a few of the matters that they were working on. I think in total they have about 8 matters that they're still working on. I may be a little bit off on that, but I just made a list so that I can monitor them. And my recollection is that there's about 8 cases that they're still working on. So, thank you.
Okay, next meeting date? February 7th, or how does that look for a day? Friday?
Today.
Yeah. Okay, February 7th at 9 o'clock. Okay. Otherwise, nothing else. I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.